The Vietnam War and the push for US involvement was a result of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. A lie. The Iraq War famously is a result of lies. Wars in Somalia are a result of lies. The Second World War and the German invasion of Poland was a result of carefully constructed lies. That is war by media. Let us ask ourselves, of the complicit media, which is the majority of the mainstream press, what is the average death count attributed to each journalist?
Okay, that of course was Julian Assange at the very top from a speech he gave in London back in 2010. I'm Randy Credico. This is Randy Credico Live on the Fly, Assange Countdown to Freedom. Before I get into my special guest, I just want to mention that next Wednesday, speaking of Assange, is International Press Freedom Day. And there's going to be a rally in New York City on that day at 4 p.m. at in front of 49th Street between 5th and 6th at the headquarters of MSNBC. You can find out more about that by going to NYC Free Assange, or you can send them an email, NYC Free Assange. But that's next Wednesday, May 3rd, 4 p.m. between 5th and 6th Avenue in New York City, in front of NBC, which is where MSNBC is, on International Press Freedom Day. Oh, so my special guest today is Lee Camp. He was on the radio show. I only was able to play part of it today because we had an extended interview, about 40 minutes. So we're going to get right into it. You know Lee Camp. He's been on the show before. He's a political satirist. He's an author. He's a great activist. And he's the former host of Redacted Tonight. And he's got this dynamite new book out called Dangerous Ideas. And we're going to talk about that and other issues today in this interview. So we're going to take a quick break and come right back with the great Lee Camp. Okay, that was Dmitry Shostakovich, Sweet from a Variety from a piece that he wrote in 1932. I'm Randy Credico. This is Randy Credico Live on the Fly. And as I said, we are joined today by the great Lee Camp, the satirist, author, activist, and the former host for many years, I think 6 years, of Redacted Tonight until he was redacted last year at this point in time. Welcome back, Lee, to the show.
Thanks for having me back. Actually, 8 years. Don't cut two of them away. But,
It went by so quickly. I'll be honest with you, and I really missed that show. The last time you were on this show, I think we were talking about this book.
Bullet Points and Punchlines. Yeah.
Bullet Points and Punchlines. It's a great book. In fact, you autographed this one. I'm not going to look it up right now, but
that means it's worth $3 extra on Etsy.
You got to get this book, folks, because I'm just amazed at your ability to write. These all, especially this new book, because they all read like a Mark Twain after dinner speech. Seriously, they're all great. They're humorous. There's dark humor in there. There's a lot of irony. There's sardonic. You're satirical. But this new book is called Dangerous Ideas. Now, where did you get that title?
Well, it is coming out. It's roughly been a year since my TV show was shut down by U.S. sanctions. At the same time, my YouTube channel was banned globally, and all the videos, over 2,000 videos, banned globally. And my podcast was deleted from Spotify. So it seemed like the things I'm covering, and that you often cover, Randy, are dangerous ideas that will get you kind of pushed out of the mainstream. I was never in the mainstream, but now I've even been relegated to a tiny remaining corner of the internets.
Well, wait, what happened to all the YouTube shows that you did? Do you still have those filed away somewhere else?
So I can still log into the back end of the YouTube page, and probably get those videos. So they're technically still accessible. However, all of them have been banned on YouTube, which means anyone who links to them or searches for them will not find anything from Redacted Tonight on YouTube. Those who don't know the show, it was like a really left-wing daily show, and we did it once a week for 8 years. And they, within a week of when RT America shut down, they banned the YouTube channel and all of the videos globally, which I've heard them doing various other things, but I've almost never heard them of YouTube doing that to a channel unless it was outright Nazis or something.
Right. Well, I did the show 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
I'd like to get access to those, but I guess I won't be able to find them on YouTube. You
Not
go
easily.
way back, when you were exposing the Russiagate hoax, and especially the connection, which you talked about. I must mention that you did almost all of, and the first, and you were kind of the co-creator of the Stand Ups for Assange show, and one of that routine you did about me,
Yeah,
Roger Stone.
I love doing those shows with you. Yeah.
Well, we missed the last few with you that we did in DC and in New York. So you've moved to Sweden.
I did. I'm back, but I moved. My wife is half Swedish, so we moved for 8 or 10 months. I think closer to 10 months, and we're back now.
You're back where?
We're moving to Baltimore in about a week.
Oh, so God, that's great. We do another Assange show. Hopefully he's out before we do another one.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Good. Well, and of course, Eleanor would. We miss her. She's such a great singer. She really.
Yes.
She really stole. I hate to say it. She really stole the show. The last one that we did.
Oh, she totally did. And actually, I just want to add in here, I got lucky, and I happened to be in Stockholm when John Shipton was touring, and so I did I don't know if I know you've met the man, but I hosted the Q&A for him at a theater in Stockholm where he spoke on that movie that just came out a year ago, Ithaca. Yeah,
I did too. I just hosted a Q&A with him. I think somewhere in Long Island, of all places, some conservative city in Long Island. I was up. I saw it 3 different. I didn't see it, but I was with them 3 different times when they were in New York. Let's get back to the book here. Dangerous ideas. You definitely have dangerous ideas, and you do know that there's a wave of hysteria rocking this country. It's gripping this country. These 4 gentlemen down in Florida that were arrested and banning Stolichnaya, anything Russian, it gets you in trouble. Before we get into the chapters in this book, just your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, Chairman Yeshitela, I interviewed him for an hour just a few weeks ago. It was before they actually charged him, but they had already arrested. They'd done the arrest, and when they raided his house with his wife there with flashbang grenades and SWAT teams and handcuffed them on the sidewalk, despite the fact they had never asked them to come in and turn themselves in or anything. So really, the cops wanted the show, and the FBI wanted the show as if they were taking down a terrorist, when in fact they could have asked him to come in and he would have come and spoke with them. And this is absolutely the prosecution and arresting and harassment and abuse and persecution of someone, for people, actually, for free speech. They actually, the DOJ kind of let the cat out of the bag in their statement, where they called what the Uhuru movement has done, quote, weaponized free speech. So the DOJ admitted that they're arresting these people and threatening them with 10 to 15 years in prison for what is supposed to be free speech. It is horrific and horrifying, and I think the goal is to create a chilling effect amongst those who will speak out against the U.S. empire.
Well, it certainly put a chill in my body when that happened.
Yeah.
I'm driving up to Albany yesterday, and I'm looking in the rearview mirror for SUVs to go by. They're behind me, and then I go so slow that they have to go around me. Then I'm relieved. But I'm going 55 in the 65-mile zone. But it really is scary right now. This is like a whole new step that I wasn't anticipating.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are pretty surprised by it. But it does, to kind of see a little bit of silver lining on this, it shows how desperate the U.S. empire is becoming. We're losing our hegemony, which in a rational adult world should be a good thing. You should have a multipolar world. You should have countries with sovereignty, with their own beliefs and own cultures. Instead, our ruling elite want to rule the world, which they have in many ways for a generation. And that is collapsing, as it is bound to do when you exploit everybody to this level. And their response has been to shut down freedom of speech, freedom of thought. They're arresting people like those in the Uhuru movement, and they're arresting people like Julian Assange. And for those that aren't arresting, they're just trying to crush all of their platforms, like you and me, and trying to make sure that we are not able to speak publicly. And so I just, want people to know that if someone still has a gigantic platform like New York Times or Spotify or these large ass platforms, then it's because they're not saying anything threatening to the ruling elite. I mean, that is what it comes down to.
Absolutely. I was in Russia, as you know. I just said I was there for a couple of weeks, and what's the new Russia, Donetsk and Mariupol, and I sent back reports every single day, 2-minute reports. And the first few and the last few was from Moscow. And I can't tell you how beautiful that city is. Not only is it beautiful, it's thriving. I mean, I went to markets. I was able to walk around on my own. I got a friend over there who heads a band. And I was able to float around, and I saw a lot of really a bustling city. So this stuff about sanctions, first of all, having this dramatic effect, and people are standing in lines for bread or for soup kitchens. It's just not real. And so that's one myth that they keep perpetuating out there. And the sanctions have not had any effect except for here, because I just paid a record amount of money for gasoline, and the prices in the store are, through the roof. Just here in the Woodstock area, everything has gone up. Have you noticed that yourself?
Yeah, I mean, the prices have just gone crazy. Grocery stores, and especially if you want to buy anything that's not made out of petrochemicals and hydrogenated, semiconductors, then you are going to pay an arm and a leg for anything healthy. Sure, you can still get a McDonald's hamburger for $2, but you can't get a head of organic broccoli for less than 15. The prices have gone nuts. The sanctions have backfired largely. They've pushed actually something to happen that was happening anyway, which is the splitting of the world's economies, so that many countries are going outside the petrodollar, which is where the U.S. gets its strength. And they, rather than separating Russia, they really forced Russia's hand into running closer to China. 19 countries have now said that they have formally applied to be in BRICS, the kind of competitor to the U.S. central banking and petrodollar system. And it really is like speeding up, the opposite of what the U.S. ruling elite wanted. And just to jump off what you were saying about Russia and how it's very different from the propaganda we get, that's the same way I felt about China. I just came back. They asked me to speak at at their democracy forum in Beijing, and I was there 3 or 4 weeks ago. And like you, I was free to roam around, and I walked around Beijing for hours and hours. And it's a thriving, bustling metropolis. Whereas if you're here in the United States, you believe that everybody in China, all 1.4 billion of them, is under armed guard at all times. So it just goes against the propaganda if you actually see these places.
Right. And one thing I'm sure you saw as well, how clean the streets are. I believe in Beijing, because they are in Russia. I've never seen such clean streets and highways, no potholes. And when I was up here last week, I come back down the West Side Highway, and once again, I run over the same huge pothole that I'm surprised didn't rip my tire off. And it's like that all the way up. On the 87, there's bumps everywhere, but you don't see that there.
Ironically, we have potholes in the United States that actually go to China. So pretty ironic. But no, you're right that the roads are pretty well taken care of and much smoother. And the way China has built up over the past 20 years is pretty crazy. They took 850 million people out of extreme poverty over the past 20 to 30 years, which is 2 United States worth of human beings out of extreme poverty. It's truly unbelievable. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't criticisms of China, just as there are criticisms of Russia. But for us to believe all of the U.S. propaganda is really just pathetic, and it shows a fear and insecurity and an inability to think like a grown, rational adult, which is not what our ruling class wants your average American to do. They want us all to be scared and to think that everybody in China or Iran or Cuba or Russia or Venezuela or North Korea is just, the tip of Satan's tongue. And it's simply not true. These are human beings who should be treated with respect and dignity and sovereignty. And our ruling class has no interest in doing that.
No, I'll tell you, it's really bad. You know what? You're right. The U.S. has just become this desperate entity. It reminds me of like watching Gunsmoke. Some guy at a bar that's naked, that's $31 trillion in debt, but has a big gun. That's about it.
Yeah.
we have a big gun. All right, turning from Gunsmoke, which is one of my favorite shows. Sam Peckinpah wrote for that. I want to go through some of these chapters here. And the first one, and it's like third or fourth on the list of table of contents, is the CIA has taken over the U.S., which, of course, I subscribe to that 100%. Can you give it to us in your own words?
Yeah, I go through, several examples of the CIA making decisions that clearly are not going through Congress, of course, are not really, in some diffuse way, they may go through the president, but not in a true and clear way. And I also talk about the past of how the CIA did indeed take out Kennedy. And one of the examples that I give is Truman, who actually created the CIA. He signed the executive order that made the CIA an entity. He wrote, and you can Google it and still read it today. He wrote an op-ed for Washington Post that said the CIA had essentially gone rogue, was doing things that it was not supposed to be doing, and he had great fear for what it meant for the United States. Now, that came out in the Washington Post 1 month after Kennedy was assassinated. However, the original handwritten version that Truman wrote was written 1 week after Kennedy was assassinated. So what do you think Truman was talking about when he wrote this op-ed saying the CIA had become a rogue entity that was going way outside its, dictate of what it was actually supposed to be doing?
Well, Seymour Hersh says the CIA was the middleman in the Nord Stream explosion. And let's talk about Assange for a minute while we're on the CIA. I've always said it's the CIA driving because of Vault 7 more than the collateral murder. The reason, the impetus behind the CIA making sure that Assange doesn't get out. Do you believe that?
I'd say now, yeah, I'd say that's definitely a big player. I mean, we know Pompeo, when he was the head of the CIA, worked very hard to either kidnap or kill Assange. So getting so close as to draw up plans for assassination. That's how That's how psychotic these people are, and they will stop at nothing. And they have a true kind of like vengeance thing against Assange, but they also just want to demonstrate to everyone what will happen if you dare reveal the secrets of the U.S. empire. But those secrets are so vast. I mean, tens of millions of cables that they are all classified. It's just insane what the US keeps secret. And so you have this incredible lack of transparency in a country where we're supposed to have information in order to be informed voters, but we don't have any of that information. And if anyone reveals it, they get locked up and tortured.
Right. Speaking of Pompeo, I think we have the clip, because right after Vault 7 came out, this is what Pompeo said.
It's time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is. A non-state hostile intelligence service often abetted by state actors like Russia. We know this because Assange and his ilk make common cause with dictators today. Yes, they try unsuccessfully to cloak themselves and their actions in the language of liberty and privacy, but in reality, they champion nothing but their own celebrity. Their currency is clickbait, their moral compass non-existent, their mission, personal self-aggrandizement through destruction of Western values.
Well, there you go. 6 years ago. Why don't you just rip that apart?
Oh my God. It's so pathetic in so many ways. I love that he says their moral compass non-existence, which of course is, a thou doth protest too much moment. He is detailing exactly what he is, a person lacking in any kind of moral compass. But also he says they make common cause with dictators. He just means that they're pointing out the crimes of the U.S. empire. And they believe anybody who points out the crimes of the U.S. empire must be working for enemy countries. But in fact, a lot of people just want the truth. We just want to know what is really being done in our name. And, I always think it's important to point out that WikiLeaks never to this day has printed anything false, misleading, incorrect. It's all been proven absolutely true. So if he means the truth is bad for America, then perhaps he should sit and look in a mirror for a while as to why that is.
Absolutely. And if this prosecution goes through, which I can't imagine that they'd want him in the U.S. because we're going to play this collateral murder. I play it on every show just to remind people what he exposed. And this is totally true. Because it's on video.
Master Crazy Horse, we have individuals going to the scene, looks like possibly picking up bodies and weapons. Let me engage you.
Hey, we need to stop that so we can get down there. We need to shoot. You see my look?
Roger. Break. Crazy Horse 1-8, request permission to engage. I'm picking up the wounded. Yeah, we're trying to get permission to engage. Come on, let us shoot. Bushmaster, Crazy Horse 1-8. We're taking him. Bushmaster, Crazy Horse 1-8.
It's Bushmaster 7, go ahead.
Roger, we have a black SUV or bongo truck picking up the bodies. Request permission to engage.
Bushmaster 7, Roger. This is Bushmaster 7, Roger, engage.
1-8, engage. Clear.
Come on. Oh yeah, look at that, right through the windshield.
That makes me sick every time I see that, but I think it's important for people to see your visceral response when you see it. And I know you've seen it 100 times.
Yeah, it is visceral. It is tough to watch. I think that it is so important, that clip, because the defense of the United States and a lot of the killing we've done has been, well, yeah, a lot of innocent people were killed, let's say in the global war on terror, which the estimate, by the way, is 6 million have died in our global war on terror. 6 million people. And a lot of people go, well, yeah, a lot have died, but the aims were just and good. And we were trying to get the bad guys. But that video shows this is not them trying to get the bad guys. This is them just killing people. They're killing people literally in the process of rescuing other people. And they ended up killing a journalist as well. And it's it goes against every defense of the U.S. military complex and the way it behaves in these countries that we're invading. So that is why that video has been so powerful, and why the U.S. empire has wanted to shut down the sharing and speaking of that video for so long.
Well, Matthew Ho was on about a month ago, and he said that's just a drop in the bucket. That was the normal procedure there. It happened all the time. I want to get back to the book now. I want to go shift gears because we don't have a lot of time. What I like this one here. What if there was no capitalism? Tell us about that chapter.
Well, that one. So some of these are columns which came out at various times over the past 2 years. Some of them are completely brand new columns. That one came out initially in the first few months after the pandemic started, and everything had shut down. I mean, you remember these photos of beaches that were normally filled with people, hundreds of humans, just completely empty, and they were retaken by various animals that hadn't been able to use those beaches in 10 years or something, and these empty highways with birds just walking around on them, and so the article says, like, we've been given a glimpse of what this world would be if we all just chilled out, and if there wasn't so much, this pandemonium of growth, which, to grow infinitely on a planet with finite resources is death. It's how cancer works, is to grow until it kills the host. So anyway, I say we're getting a glimpse of something special, even if it's during a horrible time. And, I then go on to detail some of, how capitalism works. And the gravity of capitalism is always towards this infinite growth that is killing us and killing the natural world.
The name of the book is Dangerous Ideas. When is it? How do people get that book, by the way?
So right now it's just an ebook. I'm not printing hard copies for the moment, and it is available at leecamp.net for anyone who becomes a member over there. That for now, that is the only way to get it, is leecamp.net. Maybe in the future it'll be on e-reader platforms, but for now, leecamp.net.
Highly recommended. Now I want to go to this other one, how America created fascism.
Well, I talk about how inequality can often lead to fascism, and I give a bunch of examples, and then really I go through the mass inequality that we're seeing in the United States right now. We have the term for the number that shows a level of inequality in a country is the Gini coefficient, and our Gini coefficient is higher than ancient Rome when it was collapsing. So we have just epic inequality. So, 3 human beings in America have the same amount of wealth as the bottom 50% of the country. 64% of Americans say they have trouble paying for basic necessities every month. It is truly unbelievable to the point where America is now also the number one exporter of paid blood donations. People are giving blood, in almost exclusively poor people, in order to get $30 or $40 per donation. And most countries make that illegal. And so the U.S. has literally become a vampiric state. It is sucking the blood of the poor for the rich.
If there wasn't so much alcohol in my veins, I'd be doing it right now. Right? So I'd get another pint. This, I think, is kind of related. What if we extended extreme poverty and hardship?
Oh, eliminated, I think.
Huh?
What if we eliminated extreme?
It says extended here, but maybe it is eliminated. All right, then. You see how bad my eyes are? Ended.
Anyway, yeah, it talks about how we actually could, via universal basic income or something like that. Now, some people may be yelling at their TVs or radio sets that universal basic income does not solve capitalism. And that's true. It doesn't. However, it would end extreme poverty overnight. It would end homelessness overnight. It would end a lot of suffering and hunger overnight. And so I go into the details of how universal basic income could, and every test, they've tested universal basic income in various cities or places or peoples. They've tested it hundreds of times, and every time it's worked. It has it has eliminated insecurity. It has eliminated extreme poverty. It's eliminated homelessness. The one negative of these universal basic income tests that they could find was that there was a slight uptick in divorces because a lot of women felt that they now had the ability to leave their abusive husbands because of the money. But it always works in every test. And then we go back and we say, well, we'll just have to keep testing it. And it's like, well, why don't we just do it? Because it has worked every single time.
Yeah. All right. So I got to get as many as I can. Letting, and of course, we were just talking about Vault 7, letting the surveillance state run wild is another one of your chapters.
Yeah, just going into the details on how we're more surveilled than ever before. You know, the Snowden revelations came out and people said, oh, well, this is going to change things. And it hasn't at all. We are one of the most surveilled nations on the planet. And yet we pretend we're free. We like to run around and wave a flag and say how much freedom we have. Well, that's not freedom. It's not freedom if your every move is being tracked to make sure you behave in the appropriate, acceptable boundaries of what is normal behavior for the corporate state. That is not freedom, my friend. And I think that people need to stop using the word if they think this is freedom.
I don't think anybody thinks it anymore after these guys were arrested in Florida. What about Tucker Carlson leaving? I mean, I didn't agree with a lot of this stuff, but if I go to CNN and MSNBC, I don't agree with any of their stuff. So I started watching Tucker because you would get some very excellent programming on the CIA, the surveillance state, and this current conflict with Russia and China.
Well, I have complimented certain segments that Tucker Carlson has done, such as he did one about the CIA's connections to Kennedy's assassination. So I've complimented segments while I have at the same time said, let's not pretend this guy isn't a racist, white, misogynistic bag of garbage. So, you know, he'll do one segment that a leftist or a left-wing person can really get excited about. And then he'll also do several segments that are just complete garbage, anti-black, brown people, you know, racist. And so to me, it's like, let's not jump up and down and say how wonderful Tucker Carlson was. Let's put it in context. If he did a segment that you liked, if he had on a person you liked, then say he did a segment I liked. But, you know, when he has Mike Pompeo and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio on every day and they're all agrees with them 100% of the time, then this is not a good human being.
Right. You have to separate it. Definitely. I concur with everything you just said. Here's one that's really, important to me because I worked so many years with the William Kunstler Fund for Racial Justice regarding prisons and the prison industrial complex. You have how to abolish prisons chapter in this book. Tell us how we abolish prisons.
Yeah, I really love that chapter because basically what I did is I took the breakdown of every reason that people are locked up across this country. We are one of the largest prison states in the world. Until a few years ago, we were the largest prison state, both per capita and per sheer number. I think we might be 2 or 3 now. But, again, we act like we have freedom. We're one of the largest prison states in the world. That's not freedom. And so I went through every reason that people are locked up, all of the various crimes, and according to the statistics, why they're in prison. And I broke down how ridiculous it is for 99% of these people to be locked up. And, you know, I go through all the details. Some of it's humorous. A lot of it is being quite serious. But at the end of it, I come down to, so once you've eliminated all the people that are locked up that shouldn't be, the biggest one, of course, is drug crimes, which drugs should be a health issue, not a crime issue. But once you get down to releasing all the people who shouldn't be in prison, you're left with a few thousand rapists and murderers. And I think what you should do is you split those up across all 20,000 cities in the United States. Apparently there's over 20,000 cities. And you put one little house with about 5 people in each house in each city. So you'd have a little house that would have, 2 murderers, 3 rapists. And it would be a tiny little house in each city, and that would be it. We wouldn't have mass prisons, and probably one of the murderers would kill each other. So you'd really just have 2 rapists, 2 murderers, and in a house that's locked up, and that'd be it. That'd be it. Instead of this massive crime against humanity that we have.
Yeah, right. There's it's just unbelievable. I think we're still number 1, but I'd be happy to say it's number 2 or 3 that we're letting a few people out. Another one I love is you don't actually need that, which comes to the book.
Well, this one ended up being kind of timely because this is one of the columns that has never been printed anywhere before. It's a humor column making an important point about consumerism, but ironically, it's the focus of it is Bed Bath & Beyond, which has just declared bankruptcy. But Bed Bath & Beyond had my point in the article had perfected the ability to get you to buy things you don't need at all. You go in there and you walk out, with a 10 spatula set and a self-sharpening knife and a shower head that can wash you and your dog at the same time. And it is just the perfect example of wasteful, awful consumerism and materialism. And anyway, it's a quite humorous run. Now, I get that Bed Bath & Beyond has gone out of business, but really this could apply for a lot of stores other than just Bed Bath & Beyond. But
I used to shop there a lot. Bed Bath, and I got
how many spatulas did you end up with?
I got a garage full of stuff I don't need. I never used. It hasn't been opened, the boxes. All right, so let's go to this one here and we'll let you go. And that is towards the end, it's now or never.
Yes, now or never, we stare into the abyss. That is about the extinction of, I believe it's the white rhino, maybe northern white rhino or something. And when I wrote that a year ago or something, there were 2 female rhinos left, which meant that they were going extinct. It was inevitable. There were no males. And I go through a bunch of extinctions that have gone on in the past 5 years and how little coverage they've gotten, how much we ignore them. And these animals have been around for millions of years, and yet they go extinct in the blink of an eye, and humans just move on about our day. And the point is, and I'd say at the beginning of the column, it's a hopeful column, because the overall point is that we actually have the ability to stop this. We have the technology to live in a sustainable society. We live in a post-scarcity world where if we actually allotted resources correctly, we could all be living fine and there would be no poverty and no hardship. And we don't need to be eliminating so many of these amazing creatures that evolved over millions of years. But we are, because we're not actually using that technology correctly. We're going for profit over all else while the natural world dies around us.
Yeah, it's getting very scary for elephants and giraffes as well, and lions. They are slowly disappearing. Lee, I'm going to leave it at that, and I want to thank you once again, Lee Camp. The name of the book is Dangerous Ideas. How do people follow you? Tell us once again how to get the book online and all of that stuff.
Thanks so much, Randy. It means a lot to be on. LeeCamp.net is the site. Now, LeeCamp.com is also my website, but the site where you can get the book is LeeCamp.net. And anybody who becomes a subscribing member, which is just $1.50 a week, gets the book for free. And it's there, LeeCamp.net. And that's where all my other videos are as well. I'm also on Twitter at LeeCamp.
Yeah, I owe you $1.50. All right, so we're going to go. Don't go anywhere. We're just going to play our exit music, segue music to our closing remarks. So this is pretty apropos, and this is Barry Maguire. I'm sure you've heard this a lot recently.
The Eastern world, it is exploding. Violence flaring, bullets loading. You're old enough to kill, but not for voting. You don't believe in war, but what's that gun you're toting? And even the Jordan River has bodies floating, but you Tell me over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. Don't you understand what I'm trying to say? Can't you feel the fears I'm feeling today? If the button is pushed, there's no running away. There'll be no one to save with the world in a grave. Take a look around you, boy. It's bound to scare you, boy. And you tell me over and over and over again, my friend, you don't believe we're on the eve of destruction.